A couple of weeks ago we hit the 10,000 subscribers milestone, so today I decided to show you my workflow of recreating game mechanics. More about this awesome achievement at the end of the video. Also, according to YouTube, only a small portion of the people that watch my videos are subscribed, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. As well, let me know in a comment if you know any other workflows. Now let's get right into the video. First and foremost, let's divide this process into 4 smaller parts: prototyping, adding the front end, combining the first 2 steps, and polishing. Let's start with number 1, and that is prototyping. What I usually do in this stage is program something that resembles as much as possible the technical chunk of the mechanic. This may sound a bit vague, so let's take an example from the Overwatch Dead-Eye tutorial I made a while ago. You can see that there is a weapon, a crosshair, and a circular progress bar. While that is cool and all, it has almost nothing to do with the technical side of the mechanic, so let's get rid of them. What we are left with is basically a line trace system that fills a float range and other technical stuff that's boring. This is the core of the mechanic, the backend. And besides binding animations, UI and whatnot, that's pretty much the only thing one has to code. Adding the frontend is rather straightforward. At this stage you should start adding physical representations for different parts of the mechanic that you are trying to recreate. That is a mouthful, so let me simplify it. If you have a shooting system, add a gun. If you have a car system, add a car. Pretty straightforward, right? Let's take some examples to illustrate exactly what I mean by all this. Firstly, in the Dead-Eye tutorial, the gun is probably the best representation of this. It is single-handedly telling the player everything it needs to know. Okay, this goes pew pew and fills up my ultimate, which ends up killing even more players. Combining the front end and the back end. I consider this to be anything that is related to animations, movement, camera, and anything of that kind. Back to the Dead-Eye example, in my case that was positioning the gun and adding the shooting and reloading animations. And last but not least, polishing, which consists of sound effects, visual effects, UI elements, and other tweaks that make things look nicer and feel nicer. For instance, in that tutorial I added the crosshair, 2 images when activating the ultimate that represented the left and the right mouse button with different events, changed the post process to get a red tinted image, and changed the FOV. And that's pretty much how I recreate mechanics. Keep in mind, this is just my workflow and how I do things. Feel free to use other workflows that fit you. With that said, recreating mechanics is easy, right? No. Things usually don't go as smooth as you plan to, and recreating mechanics is one big pain, because even if you can code it, making it look just like the original is hard. Modeling and effects is not something everybody knows how to create. At least I don't, so anything past the first step is a big yikes. Let's see exactly why that is. I have been trying for the past few days to recreate the combat system from The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and while I mostly did it, it was and am even today not very satisfied with how it ended up. Maybe in itself it is decent, but it is not as close to the original as I wanted it to be. But that is not always the case. In most scenarios, you can leave aside some effects and models because they are not as relevant to how the mechanic feels and plays. And if I think well about it, the same could be said about the combat system. It is usable, it doesn't look horrible, and could actually be used in a game. So obviously a lot of work goes into recreating a mechanic. And I would even say that sometimes it's harder to recreate than come up with something original. I'm going to leave a link down to the GitHub repo of this project in the description of this video, so if you want to play around with it, you can go ahead and do that. And here are some tips if you ever plan to recreate any mechanic. I wish I knew this when I started out, but do not be afraid of making a spin-off, your own version of the mechanic or system. It doesn't have to be 100% the same, so keep that in mind. Secondly, if something doesn't feel quite right, ask for feedback. This might sound obvious, but it is very important. Getting feedback from the outside is going to be much more valuable than trying for 10 hours to find what doesn't feel good. 10,000 subscribers. After only 2.5 years, we hit a milestone that when I started out, I thought would take much more than this. What can I say other than I'm so proud of this community, and thank you so much to everyone who has stuck with this community for so much time and who has supported me over this past couple of years. It may or may not seem like, but this whole thing means way too much for me to express through words. I want to talk a bit about what's going to happen from now on with this channel. Recently I've realized a very important thing. I have to be more the person behind the screen rather than only the voice in the video. What I mean by this is I have to be more me and connect more with our community and others as well. So that is one of the short-term plans which I'm pretty confident I can easily achieve. The next thing I want to address is where this channel is heading. I have been planning for a while to change the content I create. I've always loved recreating mechanics, and that is basically what I have been doing on YouTube most of the time. I want to shift the type of content I create to shorter videos, kinda like what Andre from Mix and Jam does. Besides that, I want to settle with an editing style that fits me and my personality, which you might have noticed I have already started to transition to. The last thing I want to talk about is what will happen with the channel itself in the upcoming years. To say so, I don't have any plans to stop making tutorials and content. I wish to continue making videos for pretty much as long as I can, and eventually branch out into more general game development and game design topics. If you have any suggestions of what you would like to see more on this channel, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Once again, thank you so much for helping us achieve this awesome milestone. That's it for this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, and let me know down below what workflow do you use when recreating or even creating an original mechanic. And as always, thanks for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons for sponsoring me this month and helping me do what I love, and especially to these top tier supporters: Aviram IFM, Badr Al-Kahtani, Darklich NY, Golden Glowmaster, Leonardo Pereira, Urgel Paquin, and Xim369. For more resources regarding this video, make sure to visit this description. Once again, thank you so much for watching, see you again soon.